Hello again, diamond painting friends. This is Karen with a C from Crafting with Karen. Tonight we're going to do a drill with me video. I'll be working on the abstract blue flower that you saw me unbox the other day from freediamondpainting.com. But before we get started on that, I thought I would go through, before I have too many more finished projects, and kind of run through the ones that I've already done. I don't know if I'll necessarily do full completion reports on all of these, but I thought you might like to see the ones that I've already finished. These are going to be in the order that I did them. So this was the first one that I ever did. When I first thought I might like to do this, I ordered this one from Amazon, this peacock. It's 45 by 75, and you've seen probably several versions of this at different stores and different formats, different sizes. This is not the one with the special fancy drills in the corners of the feathers. These are just still regular rounds, but this was a full drill rounds, 36 colors. I'm very pleased with how it came out. This definitely was enough for me to catch the bug and to turn this into a real love new hobby. It isn't exactly perfectly flat. I've had it actually wound around the inner tube of a roll of wrapping paper while I was storing it until I was ready to get it framed, which I definitely will do, and we'll get it hung up. But I'm very, very pleased with how it came out. So again, this was the first one that I ever did, and I really like it. Next we have, this is a Diamond Dots pattern. Sorry, I've got all these stacked up in order, so you'll see the other ones underneath it. And this was called Blue Dahlia. It was very quick, partial, rounds, 8 colors. This was my first experience with non-DMC colors. I like it very much. I'm happy with how it came out. I've got it actually stuck up on my wall right next to where I sit and diamond paint and record videos with just a little bit of blue tack. I've got a little thing of blue tack on these two corners. I've got it stuck up on the wall. It's working fine for me. I'll get it framed, but that's working for now, just to get it up there so I can look at it. It's pretty and blue and pretty. Next we have a pattern. Most places call it flowers. Let's see if I can get it a little more centered in the frame here. And this one, you've probably seen this one on several websites. I've seen it all over the place. I got mine from Amazon. Again, this was before I was able to get any China orders to come in. I had just gotten the bug and I was trying to get stuff in my hands as fast as I could, so Amazon was the place to go. This one, it's okay. It's very colorful. I'll definitely give it that. The canvas was fine, the beads were fine, you know, the drills were fine. There was nothing about it that was really bad, except I think it's a little muddy. I think this is definitely a picture that is much better from farther away. If you get too close to it, it just becomes a mush of color. From further away, you can get a better sense of the actual flowers. Like this one, for example. When I was working on it, I called it gears because I thought that these looked kind of like gears more than flowers. But it's fine, and I'll probably frame it and put it up somewhere. Don't know where yet. Next is another Leisure Arts by Diamond Arts pattern. This one is called Rainy Day. And again, you've probably seen multiple versions of this colorful umbrella pattern out there. This particular one was a partial. All of this background is just painted, and you just drilled the umbrellas and then the sort of abstract people down here. I liked this one a lot. I liked the colors. Again, it's rounds. And what I liked about working on this one was, oh, and this was true of the dahlia also. I've already tossed it in the pile on the floor, so I'm not going to lift it up again. But if you look on this section here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but some of the white beads, let's see if I can get it close enough. Yeah, you can kind of see. They're not ABs, but they have these little tiny squares of other colors on them that give them an extra shimmer. And so far, all of the Leisure Arts Diamond Dots kits that I've done have had 1 or 2 colors of that extra with those little squares on it. So someone can tell me what those are called, because I know they're not AB, that's something else. But what I especially, so I liked that. And then the other thing I liked about working on this project was that you could work in discrete chunks with a few colors in that area, like, you know, one umbrella at a time, and a chunk with just a few colors, as opposed to complete confetti. And, oh, sorry, that's the little wrist holder for my camera that I've got taped up on the boom here so it doesn't get in the frame. All right, there we go. And I liked that about this, because I could just pull out those colors. I could work on this red section or this green section and just have a couple colors out at once and not have huge confetti everywhere. So that's this one. Next, we have Phoenix Rising, which I did do a completion report for. I'm pleased with how it came out. I sort of wish I'd ordered a bigger size because there's not a lot of detail. It's fine. It looks nice enough. I mentioned in that original other video that I really had this idea in mind of the Phoenix due to my divorce that is in process. Things are sort of imploding in my life right now in several different ways. And I really wanted something that was positive and that sort of had this image of, you know, the phoenix rising from the ashes and being reborn, and, you know, that I'm going to be creating this new life for myself as a single person and single mom, and that that image spoke to me. I have since seen another Phoenix on Evermoment that I've got my eye on. It's a little out of my budget right now, but I am really thinking about doing that one too. And I'll still frame and put this one up. But I want one with a little more detail and a little more fire to it. So this is fine, but I'm definitely got my eye on that one. Next, we've got Red Poppies. You've seen me drill on this one a couple of times. This is the finished product. I'll just kind of do it under here so you can see the whole thing. This is, again, a Diamond Dots project. I purchased it from, I believe this one came from, I want to say AC Moore, either AC Moore or Michaels. Actually, you know what? Those other two, I believe those were from AC Moore. I can never remember which I went to for what. They're sort of interchangeable in my mind. And I like this one quite a bit. Lots of red, as you can see. I won't need to drill any red for a while, and I'll be perfectly content. Again, this one had a couple of colors of those special beads, special drills with the little squares on them. I think you can see that. So there were some sort of orangey ones and some sort of white ones. So there's the sort of orangey ones, and then let's see, here's some of the white ones that had those special little squares. So again, I'm curious what those are called, if there's a certain type that they have a name. Again, this was nice. I could pull out, you know, 5 or 6 trays of these different shades of red and then work on a flower at a time. And it was, you know, very discrete sections that were easy to move across the canvas and work. I really do like the way this one came out, and it'll definitely go up on a wall. All right, and then my most recent one that I've completed is one that just came in the other day. You saw me unbox it. Just get rid of this stuff for a second here. We'll talk about those in a minute. Oh, got a piece of fur on there. Our dog Pepper is going through her springtime shedding, so there's black fur everywhere. So this is what I refer to as the colorful giraffes. I mentioned when I unboxed it from New Frog. It is a partial. This bottom part's painted, and then it's just got sort of the rainbow giraffes for what you drilled. And I mentioned that I would probably be able to knock it out in one evening, one night. And I did indeed. I started working on this at about midnight when I finished Red Poppies the other night. Worked straight through the night and finished it right up at around 5 o'clock. So just almost exactly 5 hours straight through, not including, you know, bathroom breaks and whatnot. And it's cute. It's giraffes. It'll go on the wall with probably many other giraffes over the next amount of months or years that I enjoy diamond painting. It was perfectly good to work on, and this was interesting that these light green drills that are on this right-hand giraffe, the ones that form the borders of the little dot of the spots, there were more of that color stuck together than I've ever had before in a project. And it was just that one color. And even when I would squeeze them between 2 green trays and try to mush them and pop them open, sometimes they were stuck so hard that they just wouldn't even pop apart. So, I mean, I had plenty to finish. It wasn't a problem. But I just thought it was interesting that it was only that color that did that. So, go figure. All right. So, that's everything I've done so far. And in a few minutes, we'll get this abstract blue flower back up on the easel and start drilling on that. And we'll talk some more. In the meantime, I wanted to talk about a couple of issues. When I unboxed, this is parchment paper over this. So when I unboxed this big New Frog order, I mentioned that I like to iron my canvases. I peel off the plastic, I put on the parchment paper, and I iron them from the back. And when I iron them, I put them straight flat on the table, no towel, no nothing. I usually iron at a low to medium setting, and I have never had an issue. They've always come out perfectly flat, no problems, gotten all the creases out, not caused any issues. But for some reason, this particular canvas, which is the title of it was The Kissing Giraffes. This one. It warped terribly. And it's not just that it's wrinkled. I mean, it warped. Like, the edges are stretched now. It can't really be flattened, I don't think, because if you try to flatten it, you kind of end up like it can't really flatten. And I've got these two huge creases that I can't get out, and I'm afraid to iron more. So I put it under some books for the last couple of days. I don't really think that's going to help. I guess you can kind of see it better. Like if I try to flatten it from here, there's like this hump that has nowhere to go. It really can't be completely flattened because there's this extra hump because it's warped. So I'm not sure what to do about this. I'm kind of bummed. I was able to get it, you know, mostly, like this side's fine. This side flattened out to work on and it's okay. But I don't know if once I get this all worked up and I spend the time and energy to do it, if I'm going to even be able to get it flat onto whatever I want to mount it on to frame it. So I'm sort of reluctant to put a lot of time into it. I really love the picture and I'd like to work on it. So if anyone's got any suggestions other than just putting something heavy on it, which, you know, I can certainly do, but again, I don't think that's really going to solve the problem because of the warping. It doesn't have anywhere to go to flatten anymore. So if anyone's got any suggestions on some ideas of how to salvage this, boy, I'd sure love to hear them. I mean, it wasn't that expensive. I think it was $6 or $7, so it's not like I couldn't just scrap it and order another one. And I don't think, other than the fact that the canvas is really thin and cheap, really, what do I expect from a $6 or $7 kit anyway? But it's not, I don't think it's the manufacturer's fault. I think it's my own fault. I think I may have had the iron set too high. So any suggestions anyone can make on this, I would really so appreciate, because I don't want to have to pitch it. I might have to, but I don't want to. So that's that one. And then there was a second one out of that order that, again, was able to get mostly flat, and it's probably, this one's not as bad. But again, the canvas was just so cheap. This is that colored flowers. You can see it. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but it warped just a little bit. These humps, like it's not like a straight edge anymore. It can't really be flattened, I don't think. So again, you know, it's my own fault, and if I have to scrap these, you know, maybe I'll buy them again, maybe I won't. Neither one was very expensive. $6, $7, but it would sure be nice to be able to salvage them. So if anyone's got suggestions, please leave them in the comments for me or email them to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. My wonderful viewers, I hope you will have something to say. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about before we get to drilling, I had several of these special shape projects in this batch that I just unboxed. Now this one was from the New Frog order, or no, excuse me. This one was from the Peggy by order that I unboxed yesterday. Whereas those other ones were from New Frog that I unboxed a couple of days ago. So I haven't ironed this bunch of these yet. I'm just gonna put them under. I put them under a big heavy box, like a cardboard box, flat on the table, and lo and behold, most of them are flat and they're probably fine, and I won't need to iron them. It's just, this is my impatience that I want to be able to go right away and work on it, and so I was trying to iron it. Now that I have a good supply, a stash of kits, I can afford to just take the time to let it just sit under something heavy and flatten out without ironing and not have that issue anymore. In the meantime, so I haven't ironed this one, so it's still kind of wrinkled a little bit from shipping. But my question to you is this. Once I started doing the inventory, and I wasn't missing anything that I could see, so that's good, I discovered that the codes, see if I can, let me try to zoom in on these codes. I'll show you what I mean. Hello. There we go. All right, so my camera has a little button that you just flick to zoom in. It's not continuous zooming, so let me get this centered under here. Okay, so here's the codes for these colors. Let's do this one here. That's better. Let's see if that one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's see if I can go one more in. Nope, wrong way. Sorry. I don't want it to start to get blurry. Okay, there we go. So the deal with this is these colors that are on the legend have no relationship to the color of the actual drill that's going to go onto that spot. So let me show you what I mean. So number one is this pink like cross. And it goes in this area here on the outsides of these navy petals, around these navy petals. And the drill for number one is indeed a navy blue drill. So it makes sense that it's going to go there. Now it's possible that they do it this way just so you can see it clearly on top of that navy background color. But I'm just curious if this is sort of standard for this type of canvas. So another example is number 3 here is a sort of purple, navy blue or purple half square, like a little triangle. Oh, sorry, I moved the key. Like a triangle inside of a square. That's number 3, and it's dark. And those are, let's see if I can find some of those on the canvas. Here's some right here. So there are these outer sort of triangles of these petals of these flowers here. And that color is, number 3, is pink. And this is the same throughout. Number 4 is a, sorry, I have to hold this up. I can't see it from that angle. It's like a black dot inside of a circle. And they go, let me find them on the canvas here. Where are those gonna go? Oh my gosh, without the magnifier on, I can't see very well. Yeah, so they go, this kind of does make sense, I think, now that I'm looking more closely. They go on these yellow portions around the outside of these petals, and they're yellow. So it may just simply be that they do it that way so that you can see it clearly from the background, and the drill color, the rhinestone, whatever you want to call it, is going to match more of the background color in that location. But I'm just curious because the 2 or 3 other mandala type ones that I got with the special drills, they're all the same kind of deal. Like these green, where are we here? These green, like marquee shapes. It's a green code and it says it's YX100. And YX100, if I can find them here, YX100, which is these greens, is actually this color blue. So I'm used to canvases that the color of the spot on the canvas is basically the color of the drill. Not always identical, obviously, but, you know, close. And these are wildly different. Now, I'm wondering also, you know, these are going to be completely opaque once you put them down. They've got this metallic bottom. You know, it's not like you're going to see through them to what's underneath. And that, you know, again, it may be that once I place this down, you know, the outline that goes around that green oval is indeed this sort of color blue. So if you've had any experience with this and you know, if I'm just assuming correctly that it's more about what the background color is that matches as opposed to the color of the code itself, let me know. I'm just curious. I'm not worried about it. I think it's going to be fine. But I just wanted to ask y'all what you thought. So I'm going to go ahead and reset everything here to do some drilling. I'm going to talk about a couple of tools that I've been using. One that I received and unboxed, I think it was yesterday, and then one that I got at the dollar store that I have found very useful that you might also. And I'm also going to talk about a tip that I learned from a fellow diamond painting YouTuber. So I'm going to go reset and I will be back. So here I am getting ready to start diamond painting, and I wanted to show you how I set up all of my drills for a project of this type. This is a little computer table that I use next to my main drilling area. I'm not going to show that to you because it's a mess. But I just wanted to show you that I actually, if it's feasible, I actually tip out beads or drills of all of the colors so that I have them ready. I saw another YouTuber do something like this. And that way I'm not constantly pouring them in and out of the boxes. These are my storage boxes that I use. You saw me kit them up earlier. I take a copy of the legend, I cut it up and use double-sided tape to stick it onto the tops of the boxes so that I can then put my drills inside. Ta-da! And look, I already just spilled a couple right there. Yep, I sure did. Then sometimes if I just have a couple of a given color, I'll literally take the pen. Let me grab a pen here real quick. I'm doing this with my phone in my hand as opposed to my regular camera that's on a tripod, so bear with me. But I'll literally pick the drill right out of the box with the pen if it's just a couple of that color in a given area. But I found these little trays. They have 6 sections. And I found them at the dollar store, 6 of them in the package for $1. So what I've done, let me turn this around actually, so it's facing the same direction as the rest of them, is I made another copy of the key, and I cut it into strips, and I taped them into these trays with the color number. I just wrote with a Sharpie that's going to come off with a little alcohol or nail polish remover when I'm done. And so I've got those colors that only use a few at a time in these, and I can again just pick the beads right out of these little trays. And I have a few colors of those, and then the ones that have, that are more, I have in the green trays, and I just put the number on the code, and I just taped it into the edge of the tray, and I've got them grouped by colors. So these are all the sort of dark greens. These are the darker blues and a medium blue. A few that I did before I started putting them into just 3 in a tray like these are, where I have the code on one, and then the code is actually underneath. But I know which is which because I've been doing this project for enough time that I know which bin is which color. And then these are the lighter blues here. And this has been wonderful because if I'm doing a section of confetti or near confetti like this, I might have 2 of this color and 3 of that color. I just pick up each tray and get them out and do them. And I've been working in sections. You'll see when I start drilling here in a second. I've been working in sections like this, 2 inches down, or two, these are 10 grid squares. So 2 down, 1 across. I'm on the last row, as you can see. It's looking pretty good, huh? I think so. So we'll be working on this tonight. We'll start with this section here. So I thought you might like to see that. So that's one of the tools I mentioned just a second ago. These little trays, again, 6 for $1. So even if these markers didn't come off, I just have them numbered, 1, 2, 3, whatever. I mean, I could reuse them, but I've tested it, and they'll come off with a little swab of alcohol. Those Sharpie markers, and the codes are just taped in there with Scotch tape. So that has been a real lifesaver for me because I think more than anything else, I absolutely hate pouring the drills out, pouring them back into the boxes, in and out, in and out. It just slows me down. This way, I've got everything I need. All I got to do is reach over and grab the tray. And I'm at the point in the project now where I know where every tray is on this table. And I can grab right for it, and I don't have to hunt and search to find the right tray for a given color that I need. So that's been awesome. So I'm going to get to drilling, and then I will show you the other tool that I got that has been really helpful and useful for me. Okay, enough preliminaries. Let's get to actually doing some diamond painting tonight. Next thing I want to show you guys is this tool. This is a rose straightener. This is what it looks like. And I got it from, let's see. I want to say I got it from AliExpress when I ordered that peony from Huacan. And it was a couple of bucks. I have to look up how much it was. I don't think it was really like $2 or $3 at the most. And it's phenomenal. So if you look at this row right here, you can see these drills are not lined up straight. You know, I do the checkerboard, I snap them into place, but the fact is that the edge, I'm not happy. This thing is so great. I just shove it up against there and it straightens everything out. So here's how you do it. I literally just kind of shove. I kind of go up and down a little bit. I kind of mush up against. And already, I don't know if you can see from the before and after, look how much straighter that is now. And now I've got a straight edge to keep going. So every time I finish one of these 2x1 sections, 2 down, 1 across, I do this. And all around, wherever I have open. And you can even go in between rows to kind of straighten it out a little bit. And if you look, looks pretty good. It's pretty straight. I'm happy. I mean, I don't, I'm human. It's not going to be exactly perfect to the nanometer, but it looks good. I'm happy with it. So I've been working on this now since yesterday or the day before. I told you I don't sleep, so I diamond paint halfway through the night anyway, which is how I get so much done. And the system I showed you with all of the drills out on the trays helps it speeds me up quite a bit. So that is how I'm able to really move pretty quick on this. Another tip that I learned just today watching other people's videos was to load up several pens at once. Now, I did get a pick-me-up pen, and I do like it very much, and I've been using it. But what I found with the square, and it's great for round drills. I enjoyed it, and I'll definitely use it. Excuse me, I'll definitely use it. Sorry, I had to pause for a second there. Let me say that again. I love the pick-me-up pen, and I've definitely been using it. I have been using it for round drill projects, and I'll definitely use it for the special shape projects that I have coming up. What I find, however, with the square drills is the tip is so fat, I can't see very well exactly to place the drill right into the square. With round drills, you kind of mush them around. It's not a big deal. They're a little bit smaller and a little bit more separated, and I can see everything okay. But with the square drills, this tip is so fat, I just can't see what I'm doing. So I've been using just a regular pen with regular pink wax. It's been working great. But I still have to stop and reload a lot. I don't get how people can go like 6 hours without reloading wax in their pens, because I'm reloading like all the time. And I can't believe that I never thought of this before. It's one of those how could I never have thought of this before moments. But I was watching A Colorful Life. I'm sorry, honey, I don't know your actual name. I looked on your YouTube page, but it didn't say your name. Or else I would credit you more than just saying it's A Colorful Life is her YouTube channel. And I was watching her, I know she was unboxing or doing something, and she mentioned that she had heard this trick from somebody to load up a bunch of pens at once with wax. And then, which is what I'm doing now, and then when you run out, all you gotta do is grab another pen. And you're rocking and rolling. And by the time you get through the wax on 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 pens, I'm gonna do 5. I've got 5 right here, I think. Yeah. You're ready to stand up and stretch anyway and take a break. And then you load them all up again and you're ready to rock and roll for another long while. So again, anything I can do that helps me kind of move along here and spend more time drilling and less time messing around with my tools. Tools are there to make things easier for you, not harder. Not to make things more complicated, but to streamline and to make it more enjoyable to do the actual craft. Similar to, for example, I haven't done cross-stitching in very many years, although lately I've been watching a lot of cross-stitch videos and I'm thinking about picking it up again. I never liked holding the hoop in my hand because I was constantly, with my right hand, pulling the thread out and going under and over and under and over. And it just took forever. So I really prefer a stand of some sort where I can have one hand under the canvas, one hand on top, and not have to move my hands back and forth. And again, it's just about streamlining. I'm all about efficiency and streamlining in my crafting. So let's go. We're ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to start with, so thank you, A Colorful Life, for that wonderful tip. And I started doing that. And again, it's just another little thing that makes things go faster. I'm going to start in this tray here. I've got 5 colors of drills in it. These are my sort of medium and dark blues that use smaller amounts of drills in a given area. Oh, I wanted to mention, sorry, one other thing. I don't know if you can tell here. I'm going to put in a picture right here. See all those empty G's? Yeah, that's the color I didn't get enough of. I ran out. I've got maybe 5 left. And I'm saving those to be able to compare the die lot when they ultimately do send me more. It's color number... I have to look it up here. Where's my legend? I don't have it right handy. Oh, here. No, I don't have it on there. I lied. I'll have to look it up later. It's, it is... Oh, come on. I've got washi tape over it, so I'm trying to see it underneath the tape. I think it was $7.96. No, $7.98. Color number $7.98. I was supposed to get 3 bags, and I only got 1. So I've run out of that color, and I'm just doing everything else and leaving the holes. And I'll come back and fill them in when I get the additional drills for that color. This always happens to me when I first fill a pen. I always overfill them. And then I have to pull some wax off. I usually do it on my finger there. So I will just leave the holes, get everything. The whole rest of the project's going to be done probably tonight. If not tonight, then certainly tomorrow. Except for the G's. And then I will have to go back and fill those in at a later date when those drills come in. Hopefully they won't take as long as a regular package from China. Maybe, if I'm lucky, they'll send it in some shipping form that comes a little faster, but I'm not really holding my breath. So that's what's happening here. I think when I finish this one, I'm either I really do want to get to that peony. I'm really excited about that. I'm the type of person who let me go back and say this. I think there's 2 types of people in the world. I think there's people who like to do the best first, and people who save the best for last. And I'm a save the best for last person. So I'm not going to wait until I've done every other kit in my house in order to do that peony, because I am excited about it. But I sort of like the anticipation of knowing that it's there waiting for me, because when I do it, it'll be done. And then I won't have it to be able to do anymore, if that makes sense. I don't know, that might be kind of a weird way to look at it, but let me know in the comments what you think about this concept, that there's two types of people. The people who do their favorite thing first, they eat the biggest French fry first, or they save the best for last and eat the smallest French fries and save the biggest ones for last. That kind of idea, that concept. Tell me what you think. I'm interested. And which do you think you are? So, you know what I just did? Oh my God, I'm an idiot. This is what happens when you talk. Sometimes, instead of paying attention to what what F you're doing, I just put a bunch of drills of the wrong color on the wrong code. See? Now, I said I knew which color was in which of these 6... Hello, come on. Which of these 6 bins? Yeah, I do. I do know. But I just put them on the wrong one. So look, this one, I don't know if I've got it close enough to see. Probably not. Anyway, it's supposed to be there. So oh, that one was right. Okay, so that's all right. We'll peel them off. And it's no big deal. I love these silicone tweezers. Yeah, I really I know from tweezers, I have to... We'll talk about health issues another day where I just disclose how much I use tweezers in my life, which is really ridiculously too much. I know from tweezers. And I can tell you that these are good tweezers. So I'm very happy to have gotten them. So yeah, all right. So as I'm unpicking, this is like frogging and knitting, right? And same idea. I think these are right. Yeah, those are fine. Okay, so look, it's already set. It's already fixed. Go back to the right color. Move it along. It's this one. That's the one I'm supposed to be using. So what's been happening around here lately? Well, let's see. I believe I mentioned that we've decided to send our son to a boarding school / wilderness program / therapeutic place in Maine because multiple reasons. One, he's failing school, literally failing every class. He's in 9th grade, by the way. He's 15. 2, he's out of control behavior-wise. Now, I have to put a caveat. Not a caveat, but I have to put a sort of a disclaimer when I say that. He's not doing drugs. He's not violent. He's not skipping school. He begs to get out of school all the time, but he's not, like not showing up to school. But he's very oppositional. Every single thing you ask him to do, and I mean, I know teenagers are like this anyway, but this is beyond. I mean, literally, every single thing you ask him to do, he either refuses, or he argues, or he second guesses you, or he complains and grumbles and moans to a degree that you think you're asking him to move heaven and earth, when all you're asking him to do is empty the frickin' dishwasher. I don't even ask him to fill the damn thing and touch the dirty dishes. I'm only asking him to empty it. Also, he lies a lot. I'll be upstairs and I'll say, empty the dishwasher. And after much begging and threatening to turn off his internet and all this kind of stuff, he'll finally go and do it. And he'll come back upstairs and I'll say, thanks for doing that. Is it all set? And he'll say yes. And I'll say, really? It's completely done? And he'll say yes. And I'll go downstairs and I'll find that he only did the top rack or only the bottom rack and not the silverware. So this is not good. And I know it may sound sort of like a silly thing, like, oh yeah, he doesn't do what he says, so does every other teenager in the world. But it's really beyond basic, teenage surliness. He also has some emotional issues. I mean, he's, there's a lot of stress right now in our house with divorce. His relationship with his father isn't really the greatest. They don't really get along that well. I won't go into a lot of detail, but they each sort of blame the other for each other's behavior, and neither one of them is really willing or able to sort of give the other one the benefit of the doubt, and it's difficult. And the other issue is that we've really sort of created a monster, in a sense. I have never been good at disciplining him. I've never been good at following through on disciplinary threats, so to speak. It's my fault. I take full responsibility. I know I suck. And so I'm too lenient. I let him get away with a lot that I shouldn't. I feel that Mike is too assertive with him and doesn't give him credit where credit is due, and expects too much of him, and then yells at him when he doesn't, do it or whatever. So we've had a lot of trouble finding a middle ground to parent in a unified way, and that's been one of our issues. And I'm not saying anything that Mike wouldn't completely agree with here. Like I said at the beginning, even though we're getting divorced, even though it was his choice and he initiated it, I am not going to trash talk him. He's a good man, and I'm very sad and hurt and angry that our marriage is dissolving, but I'm not going to talk about him like he's a monster, because he's not. But we have our differences, and we have our disagreements, and obviously we have some issues that we were unable to resolve despite counseling and everything. And one of those is how we parent Jordan. We've always let him sort of get away with murder. He is able to be on the computer playing games with his friends without any significant restriction. We have never been good at enforcing homework time. We've tried different methods, different routines, and have been met with such resistance and such conflict that it's been very difficult to force any kind of meaningful change. I'm very conflict averse anyway. That's just sort of my personality. And so, consequently, I unfortunately tend to allow Jordan to bully me into agreeing to things that I really shouldn't be agreeing to as his parent. I should be sticking to my guns, and no should mean no. And again, that's on me. I don't blame anybody else for that. It's something I've struggled with. It's something that I've worked on. I continue to work on it. We've been working with a parenting coach that we like very much. He's been trying to help us. But I think that because of the other issues going on right now with our marriage and all that kind of stuff, and my health is not very good right now, which is also an issue in our marriage because I haven't taken care of myself. And it's sort of something that I've sort of caused myself, these health problems. That Jordan, unfortunately, has really sort of been the victim. Not the victim, I won't say a victim, but he's borne the brunt of the what's the word I want? Sort of deficits in our parenting abilities and the choices that we've made as parents. I mentioned that he's adopted. We adopted him from Russia when he was 2.5. It's really quite an amazing story, and I do want to tell it one of these days. But it's the type of story that I need to tell when I'm working on like a big field of 310s, and I don't have to think, and I don't have to switch colors and pay much attention to what I'm doing. I enjoy telling it. I've told it many times, but it's very involved, and it's a better story for another day. But I will just say, yes, we adopted him. He lived in an orphanage. He was born somewhat premature. He was born at home from his birth mother. He went straight to the hospital. From there, when he was well enough, after, 2 or 3 weeks, I think, he went straight to the orphanage. He never lived with his birth mother. Never had, one-on-one care. Was always in an institution. And it wasn't the hellhole you would think it is when you think what a Russian orphanage could be. But it wasn't a family. And it wasn't, a single mom and or dad taking care of him. And he's got issues stemming from that. He would never be able to put it in those terms or articulate that that's what it is. But you have to figure in the back of his mind, and I think this is true probably of every adopted child and into adulthood and maybe their whole lives in a lot of cases, even if it's not in the forefront for you, in the back of your mind, you were abandoned. For whatever reason, your parents couldn't care for you and gave you up. Now, whether that's because they were drug addicts, or they were very young, or you were taken from them, as opposed to them voluntarily relinquishing you, to be adopted. Whatever the individual circumstances are, the bottom line is, in the back of your mind, you were abandoned. And that has to affect you. And I think it definitely affects him. He is extremely resistant to accepting help in any form, in almost any situation. And it has definitely affected his issues at school, because although they've offered him special education resources, he's got ADHD and stuff like that. They've offered him special education resources. They've offered him occupational therapy. They've done their best. I don't blame the school system at all. I don't think that they failed him. But he is so reluctant and resistant to the help that they try to offer him bear with me, I have to turn away from the cameras for a second to grab my next color of beads, so my voice may be muffled for a second here when I do that. Ah, come on. They've done their very best with him. I do believe that. I don't blame them, but the fact is that he is failing and something has to change. I need some dark greens, which are right here, number 6. So we've decided to, so I did a bunch of research into where we could possibly send him. Now, we are not rich by any stretch of the imagination. And with divorce approaching, we have even less disposable income than we did before. I haven't been working since, really effectively since Thanksgiving. So we've been on the one income, and we didn't have a lot of money in the bank to begin with. And this place we're sending him is redonkulously expensive. Like, ridiculously expensive. Mike's mother is going to pull some money from the 529 college fund that she has established for him to help us pay. My mother is probably also going to do the same. We're going to use, you know, some of what savings we have because we feel that this is what we need to do to help him. I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of counselors and consultants and, you know, all those kinds of people to try to figure out what's best for him. And I don't know about Mike. I agonized over this decision, I'm not kidding, weeks. Knowing he was failing, knowing we had to do something, knowing how expensive it was going to be, but, and not wanting to send him away. You know, not wanting someone else in his life to say, we can't deal with you, you need to go away. And I don't think that's necessarily what we're saying, although in a little bit, it kind of is. A little bit. So, it was a very difficult decision. And we did not make it lightly. And I mentioned this decision on a Facebook group that I'm on that's for 40 plus women who are in the process of various stages of divorce, either in getting divorced, have been divorced. It's like a divorce support group, but it's specifically, for older women, like over 40. And it's been wonderful. And the women on there are amazing and so supportive and helpful and wonderful. And it's been a really great resource for me. But when I mentioned this, one of the women responded and said, oh my God, don't send him to these places. They're terrible and they beat them and they break, and no, this is not what this place is at all. This is got good reviews. I've spoken to, a couple of the different directors and, the admissions person and the clinical person and the academic person. And I really do believe, after all of this agonizing, that this is really what's best for him. And, could it happen that we send him to this place and we cumulatively spend several $1,000s, and I mean several thousand, to send him to this program and have him come home and nothing's changed? Sure, it could happen. I'm sort of dreading that possibility, but I can't say it couldn't happen. So the plan is, last Friday, the 5th of April, was the last day of the third quarter at school. So that was his last day at public school. He's been home this week. I wanted to give him a few days decompression time, sort of like a spring break, because he won't really get a spring break once he gets up there. And we're going to bring him up there on Sunday afternoon and stay over and bring him to school Monday morning. When we first told him, he reacted exactly to the letter as I expected him to react. Excuse me, let me grab a drink of water here. you know, don't send me away. I can do better. I can improve. Look how I've done a little better this semester. And I, you know, it's going to be okay. And please don't make me go. And I'm going to miss my friends. And it's going to be terrible. And I'm going to hate it. Which is exactly what I knew he would say. But what I also knew would happen, that I anticipated, and it came true, is that after he got through the sort of initial shock of us telling him that he was going to be going away, and he had a chance to sort of process it and think about it and get used to the idea, I think he also knows that ultimately it is going to be what's best for him. He's nervous, you know. He's saying he's going to hate it, and he's not going to make any friends, and he's going to be awkward, and it's going to be terrible. But it's not going to be any of those things. And I think ultimately, I think he knows that. And I think that he's going to be fine. He's very smart, despite his complete lack of motivation and lack of doing decently in school. And he's quite personable. He's very funny. He when he wants to be, he can really turn it on and be charming and be the class clown. So I'm really not worried about him making friends. He has several really good friends here at home that are very loyal to him, and he's very loyal to them. And I understand what he says about missing them, but they're not going to forget him. He won't really have access to email or phone when he's there, so he's not really going to be able to stay in touch with them. But he'll be back. We hope the current plan is he's going to go to this program for probably somewhere around 8 weeks. Then he'll come home mid-June. He'll be home for a couple of weeks. And then he's going to leave again to go to summer camp. This is a camp. I'm Jewish, by the way, for those of you that I haven't mentioned that to. I think I mentioned it in a previous video. This is a Jewish overnight camp in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires. It's close to where my parents live. And he's been attending there for like 10 or 11 years. When he was little, he would go out and visit my parents for a couple of weeks each summer, and he would stay with them, and he would go to the day camp, because they had both the day camp and an overnight camp. And it was a perfect arrangement. You know, we would just drop him off for 2 weeks at their house, and the bus or the van would come and pick him up at the corner every morning and bring him back. So they would have the day to themselves, and then he'd be with them every evening, which was enough time to spend time with him and be grandparents and enjoy his being there, but not so much that he was completely exhausting them, you know, by them having to take care of him all day, every day for 2 weeks. And it gave us a little break, and we would always try to go away for a couple of days while he was there. You know, we would just take a long weekend or go to a B&B somewhere or whatever. And it worked out really well for everybody. And he did that for several years, and then once he was old enough, he started going to the sleepaway camp. And I remember the first summer we sent him there. You know, we told him all about it and what to expect, and he wasn't sure, but you know, he was game for it, because he'd been there so many summers already that he knew of the place. It wasn't like he was going to a completely brand new place that he'd never been. And so we get there, and we've maybe been there 5 minutes, and we're still like, you know, getting all the stuff out of the car and unpacking his clothes into his little dresser and all that kind of stuff. And he climbs up on his bunk bed, and he leans back with his arms, you know, kind of behind his head. And he says, and we had only signed him up for half of the summer, for the 3-week second session, because we didn't know if he'd like it. Having been there 5 minutes, he says to me, "Mom, next summer I want to come for the whole summer." And he has been going for the whole summer since then, for several years. So last summer we had an issue. There was an incident, which I'm not going to go into the details. It was a behavioral incident which caused him to be sent home halfway through the summer. And we weren't sure whether he would be, allowed to go back this year, whether we would allow him to go back, whether he would want to go back. But it turns out that indeed he did, and indeed he was allowed, and it's fine. And so he will go back to summer camp for the full 8 weeks. Now, the director did require from him that he write up a little behavioral contract, what he will do, what he won't do, you know, to try to make sure that So yeah, there I was in the middle of a sentence telling you all about camp. And indeed, my camera cut me off again because I hit the half-hour mark. So I'm going to do, you can see something's changed here. I finished the blue flower except for those empty G spots. Ha ha ha. She said G spot. And started this new green square thing. And I'm going to do a new drill with me on this in just a minute. I'm going to finish up this quick recording and then I'll start a new one. But I just wanted to not leave that hanging on the end of the other thing. So indeed, the director of Jordan's camp asked him to write a behavioral contract where he indicated that he knew he had misbehaved last summer and what he needed to, make sure that he did and didn't do for this summer so that he could go back to camp. He did indeed write it up. He emailed it to the director, and so he'll be all set to go back to summer camp this year. And when it gets to that point, we'll talk more about that. So here's a proper ending without a funny little scrolling text telling you I got cut off from the camera again. And I'll leave it here. I'll say have a great day. Thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe and all of those good things. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.